Once upon a time, in the vast and ancient land of the Middle East, there was a nation called Moab. Its story begins in a moment of great tragedy and human failure, yet it unfolds into a narrative of divine purpose, redemption, and hope that resonates through the ages. This is the story of Moab, a nation often seen as an adversary of Israel, but one that ultimately plays a vital role in God's grand plan for salvation. Long ago, in the days before Israel became a nation, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah had fallen under God's judgment because of their wickedness. Amidst the chaos and destruction, Lot, Abraham's nephew, escaped with his 2 daughters. They fled to a cave in the mountains, believing they were the last survivors on earth. Their hearts were heavy with despair, their minds clouded with fear and confusion. One night, as they dwelled in that lonely place, Lot's daughters devised a desperate plan. They believed that in order to preserve their family line and ensure their survival, they had to take matters into their own hands. They got their father drunk on consecutive nights and each lay with him, unintentionally becoming the mothers of a new people. The older daughter bore a son named Moab, who became the father of the Moabites. The younger daughter also bore a son, Ben-Ammi, the ancestor of the Ammonites. This shocking story, recorded in Genesis chapter 19, often makes us uncomfortable. Yet, it is crucial because it reveals the depths of human failure and the consequences of living outside God's design for family and sexuality. It also demonstrates God's sovereignty and His ability to bring about His purposes even through human failure and tragedy. Out of this dark beginning, the lineage of Moab eventually leads to Ruth, a Moabitess woman whose faith and courage transformed her into an ancestor of King David and ultimately of Jesus Christ. God's story does not end with human brokenness. Rather, it demonstrates that His grace can reach into the most unlikely places and people. Despite their troubled origins, the Moabites are woven into God's redemptive plan, reminding us that no one is outside His reach. The story of Moab challenges us to grapple with difficult questions about sin, mercy, and divine purpose. It urges us to trust that God's mercy is greater than human failure and that His plans for salvation extend to all nations. As we turn our hearts to the land of Moab itself, we see a region of striking beauty and strategic importance. Situated east of the Dead Sea, Moab's land stretched across rolling hills, fertile valleys, and rugged mountains. Its location was no accident. Positioned at a crossroads connecting Africa, Asia, and Europe, Moab was a vital hub for trade and cultural exchange. Its control of key trade routes, like the ancient King's Highway, made Moab a wealthy and influential nation. This proximity to Israel, the chosen people of God, meant that Moab and Israel had a complex relationship. Sometimes hostile, as when King Balak of Moab hired the prophet Balaam to curse Israel, and sometimes peaceful, as when Ruth, a Moabitess, married into Israelite society. These interactions shaped the cultural fabric of the region, as archaeological findings reveal that Moab and Israel shared similar pottery styles, building techniques, and even linguistic features. Their material cultures were so intertwined that their languages were mutually intelligible. God placed these nations side by side for a divine purpose. In Deuteronomy chapter 2, God commanded the Israelites not to harass Moab or provoke them to war because He had given the land to the Moabites as their possession. This divine instruction taught the Israelites to practice restraint and to understand that God's sovereignty extends over all nations. It also reminded them that relationships with neighbors, despite differences, are part of God's plan for coexistence and spiritual growth. But the story of Moab is not just about land and conflict. It is also a story rich in archaeological discovery. In the 19th century, explorers unearthed the Moabit stone, a 9th century BC inscription that references Moabite gods like Chemosh and even mentions the House of David. This artifact provides extra-biblical evidence of Moab's religious beliefs and their complex political history. Excavations in ancient sites like Deben and Kabat al-Muda have uncovered beautiful pottery, temple remains, and figurines of gods such as Asherah and Chemosh, revealing their polytheistic worship practices. Interestingly, some seals bear inscriptions with names containing Yahweh, the name of Israel's God. This suggests that some Moabites may have worshipped or at least acknowledged the Israelite God, indicating a religious landscape more complex than simple hostility. The land of Moab was also renowned for its vineyards and wine presses, as archaeological finds confirm, matching biblical descriptions of Moab as a land of abundant vineyards. This material and spiritual richness reveals that Moab was a sophisticated society with its own art, religion, and economy. It was not merely a villain in Israel's story, but a nation with hopes, struggles, and divine purpose. It serves as a reminder that God's plans encompass all peoples, even those who seem opposed to Him. Turning back to the biblical narrative, we see that the relationship between Israel and Moab was marked by both conflict and cooperation. At times, Moabite kings oppressed Israel, and at other times, they formed alliances. For example, during King David's reign, Moab was initially a friend and provided refuge for David's family. Yet, later, David subdued Moab, demonstrating the unpredictable and often tumultuous nature of political relationships in the ancient Near East. Despite their conflicts, there were moments of hope and reconciliation. The story of Ruth exemplifies this beautifully. Ruth, a Moabitess woman, was married into Israelite society. When her husband died, she refused to leave Naomi, her Israelite mother-in-law, and declared her loyalty to Naomi's people and God. Ruth's heartfelt declaration was, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." Ruth 1 verse 16. Ruth's decision to follow the God of Israel and her faithfulness led her into the lineage of Jesus Christ. She became the great-grandmother of King David, showing that God's grace can transform even the most unlikely individuals and circumstances. Ruth's story teaches us that God's family is inclusive, breaking down barriers of ethnicity and nationality, and emphasizing faithfulness and obedience. In the midst of this complex history, prophets of Israel spoke about Moab's future. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Amos, and Zephaniah all delivered messages of judgment and hope. Isaiah 15 and 16 describe Moab's destruction but also foretell a future where a ruler from David's line will establish justice and righteousness. Jeremiah 48 speaks of Moab's downfall but also of a future restoration, promising that God will restore their fortunes. These prophecies reveal a God who is just and merciful, who judges sin but also longs for reconciliation. They remind us that no nation or individual is beyond God's reach for redemption. The biblical narrative shows that God's judgments are not merely punitive but aimed at correction and renewal. His desire is for all nations to return to Him, and His mercy is available to everyone. The hope for Moab's restoration foreshadows the inclusive message of the gospel. Revelation chapter 7 describes a great multitude from every nation, tribe, and language worshipping before God's throne. God's plan of salvation is universal, reaching beyond Israel to encompass all peoples. As we reflect on the stories and prophecies concerning Moab, we are called to examine our own hearts. Are we participating in ethnocentrism or prejudice? Do we extend mercy and hospitality to those different from us? Ruth's example encourages us to welcome strangers, to build bridges across cultural divides, and to embrace God's inclusive love. The story of Moab also reminds us that God's ways are higher than ours. Sometimes, He uses unlikely people and circumstances to accomplish His purposes. Just as Ruth, a Moabitess, became part of the messianic lineage, God can use anyone, regardless of their background, to fulfill His divine plan. In our lives today, this story challenges us to trust in God's sovereignty, to stand firm in our convictions, and to seek His guidance daily. It encourages us to be faithful, to extend forgiveness and grace, and to be open to the unexpected ways God might work through us and those around us. Finally, the story of Moab teaches us that God's love and plan for redemption are limitless. No nation, no person, no past is beyond His reach. We are all invited into His family through faith, and His promises of restoration and eternal life are available to everyone who believes. As we conclude this journey through the story of Moab, let us remember that God's plan is inclusive and His mercy is boundless. Whether through the story of Ruth, the prophecies of judgment and hope, or archaeological discoveries that illuminate their culture, we see that God's purposes extend to all nations and peoples. Let us be inspired to live out this truth in our daily lives. Let us seek to build bridges of understanding, to extend love and hospitality, and to participate in God's mission of reconciliation. May we always trust in His sovereignty, hope in His promises, and remain open to His surprising ways. Thank you for joining us on this deep and meaningful exploration of Moab's place in the Bible. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share your reflections below. Subscribe to our channel for more biblical stories and lessons that inspire faith and hope. Together, let us carry the message of God's love to the world, trusting that His plan of redemption includes everyone. May God bless you and guide you as you walk in His truth and grace.